The only thing standing between America and its destruction by the Beyond Corporation are 5 losers who can barely get along. Nextwave is here to save the day, and comic books are a little more awesome because of it. Writer Warren Ellis and artist Stuart Immonen's 2006 12-issue miniseries Nextwave, Agents of H.A.T.E. follows 5 C-list superheroes who were brought together under the highest anti-terrorism effort, funded by the Beyond Corporation, to form the Nextwave Squad. Monica Rambeau, the extra-dimensional energy-powered former Captain Marvel. Aaron Stack, the cyborg sometimes known as Machine Man. Elsa Bloodstone, mystically powered monster hunter. Tabitha Smith, the explosive mutant with the unfortunate former codename of Boom Boom. And Captain let's just call him the Captain. These 5 misfits brought together to fight evil soon find out that the Beyond Corporation is actually a rebrand of Silent, a terrorist cell now posing as an anti-terrorist group to spread chaos, go on the run, and try to take down their former bosses using their stolen tech, all before the book even begins. Sound ridiculous? It is. Sound awesome? Yeah, it is. Nextwave is a parody book through and through, but it's a parody book done out of sheer love for the superhero genre, heightening its eccentricities and strangeness through its characterizations, tone, art, and breakneck pacing. Nextwave shows its readers just how insane comic books can be, not in an effort to disillusion the audience, but to get them to love comics even more by not taking them so seriously. Warren Ellis's career as a writer largely centers on mercilessly dissecting societal and political issues, while also spinning hopeful transhumanistic stories of heroes fighting past our self-imposed bonds. They are often dotted with black humor and levity, but outside of Transmetropolitan, they rarely cross into the broadly comedic. And then there's Nextwave. When Nextwave's 12 issues were published from 2006 through 2007, Marvel Comics was going through a time of transition, with the biggest, most emblematic series of the time being Mark Millar's Civil War, a massive event comic designed to grapple with the most serious issues of collateral damage in a superpowered world, while still indulging in all the over-the-top collateral damage-causing action it can possibly stuff into its 7 issues. Nextwave is here to say that comics shouldn't take themselves too seriously, and that Mark Millar licks goats. Comic books are an extremely flexible medium, and by their nature, they can convey personal experiences in ways no other type of storytelling can, or they can indulge in every excess imaginable. Nextwave doesn't really care about broader issues. It's designed to entertain in a way that's only possible in a comic book. In Nextwave, people get kicked, things explode, this is what they want, Ellis said of his audience. What more do you need to know? Someone tries to put someone else in a large pair of underpants. There's something for everybody. I do it for the children. Ellis and Immonen's intent behind Nextwave was to take everything inherently ridiculous about superheroes and elevate them until you can't help but laugh and cheer at the brilliance and stupidity of it all. Each character acts like a brain-damaged version of their established selves, like Monica playing as the Avengers-obsessed, no-nonsense leader in contrast to the rest of the team's comedic foil, or Tabby being a clueless kleptomaniac, or Elsa becoming a more extreme version of Lara Croft. I'm the predator here and you're nothing but my victim. Victim? Victim? Do you think this letter on my chest stands for America? Ellis is no stranger to superhero deconstruction, the Authority being his most emblematic. But even then, the Authority's darker take on superheroes is done out of love for the genre. Nextwave is the opposite of deconstruction. It's a superstructure of comic book tomfoolery, building on top of itself until it becomes a Tower of Babel, just begging for the laws of nature or good sense to send it toppling over. And you want it to topple over because the explosion would be just as awesome as the monstrosity that's been built before your eyes. Visually, Ellis's broad comedic take on superherodom is matched by Immonen's cartoonish art. Compare Immonen's art in Nextwave to his work on Fear Itself or Star Wars, and you can see just how chameleonic his line work can be, with Nextwave's visuals taking on extremely sharp angles and body proportions to create intensely stylized poses and comedic reactions. Pages are bursting with explosions, panels are often styled in ultra-wide cinematic sizes, and each wave of Beyond Corporation goons lets Ellis and Immonen's imaginations run wild in disturbingly silly ways. Inker Wade Von Grawbadger uses highly weighted lines for a comic strip aesthetic that makes Immonen's angles even more pronounced, while colorist Dave McCaig creates a hyper-colored world. Vibrant yellow skies, brilliant blasts of Ben-Day dot energy, ultra-moody shadows, to make Nextwave look book as insane as it's written, because this book is truly insane, and it knows it. The order's given. Start chewing, soldiers. You are men. You have guns. You chew lizard boomsticks. And you wear combat pterodactyl suits. Nextwave has barely any plot to speak of. This parody comic moves at the fastest possible pace, taking a bare minimum story structure to push its heroes into as many deranged situations as possible, with these 12 issues broken up into 6 2-issue arcs. According to Ellis, I particularly wanted to write something with a real pace to it. Each one is a big and probably slutty, brain-damaged action film crammed into 2 issues. Each story quickly shunts the Nextwave team into an obscure city somewhere in the middle of the United States that you couldn't pay the Avengers to show up in, to stop the latest knockoff monster set loose by the Beyond Corporation. While the series is incredibly brief, the typical setup established by Ellis and Immonen goes like this. Cold open in a new city where the latest threat suddenly emerges. The Nextwave team flies in to save the day. The team throws itself haphazardly at the threat until a cliffhanger ends part 1. The second half quickly escalates the threat to a degree far beyond logic, until an incredibly violent solution is deployed to destroy the villain. Along the way, Ellis throws in super fast comedic asides that shed light on a character's past, or that escalate the ridiculousness of superhero life. Their whiplash effect disorients the reader, and showcases that anything can happen in this book, and at any moment that it damn well pleases. Do you only like your superheroes serious, and their struggles as dark as coal shit out by Darkseid? This isn't the book for you. This book makes fun of you. Hell, I make fun of you too. Aaron Stack, you who were called Machine Man, you have traveled with us for 360 cycles by your reckoning of time. There is now something we have to tell you. You are total sh**. Nextwave debuted shortly after Brian Michael Bendis had broken apart the Avengers with Avengers Disassembled, R.I.P. Zombie Jack of Hearts, a real one, and brought them back in a fresh configuration with New Avengers. According to Ellis, Bendis was disappointed that few creators had stepped up to the challenge of reinventing the superhero team after he rocked the boat. It's a sentiment that fueled the creation of Nextwave. How could I really horrify Bendis, said Ellis. What could I do that would scare the shit out of him and make him utterly regret saying that? So I took the authority and I stripped out all the plots, logic, character, and sanity. I just cut everything back until I was left with pure superhero comics. Over the course of 12 issues, the Nextwave squad fight a newly awakened and frustratingly horny Fin Fang Foom, take down a crooked cop infected by a needle-faced cat that turns him into some sort of a GoBot, square off against a legion of possibly edible broccoli men and less edible robot samurai, fight a horde of mindless ones sent by the Dreadlord Rorkanu, Lord of the Dank Dimension. He really loves petty cash and those suicide girls. A group of knockoff Avengers powered by leftover chemicals, like Captain America's piss, and every other imaginable piece of long-forgotten Marvel Comics ephemera. But where does this fit into Marvel Comics continuity? You, that's where. When I did my first round with Marvel in the 90s, one interested editor, in an attempt to destroy my brain, had the entire Marvel Universe handbook copied and FedExed to me, said Ellis. Every now and then I would page through this and just be astonished at how some of this stuff got published. It's like if the Bible had been assembled by the inmates of 5 lunatic asylums. There's 2 types of humor generally seen throughout Nextwave. One is the outlandish embrace of the silliest aspects of superhero comics. That's seen in how the Beyond Corporation and Dirk Anger are basically jaded Steranko-esque takedowns of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury, the vomit-covered alien origin of the Captain, and how every fight scene seems to end with the biggest explosion possible. And the other type of humor is found in strangely dark non-sequiturs. It's seen in the repeated kicking of a cop, who the Nextwave squad seem to hate even more after they've stopped his robot rampage and reverted him to his human form. It's in the realization that Aaron has willingly turned his robot brain alcoholic, or in how Monica's much talked about time with the Avengers is addressed in sudden flashback, revealing this disappointing truth about Captain America. It's the gamma-activated bullmen from beyond the 19th perimeter, and they're naked. Cover your eyes, go back to Avengers Mansion, and make my dinner. And we can't go without discussing Dirk Anger's perpetual spiral into a nervous breakdown, becoming increasingly suicidal, and eventually turning into a zombie after hanging himself. Does all the humor in Nextwave age well? Not quite. Ellis's penchant for boundary pushing can feel a little of the time, especially when it comes to shaming someone else's cross-dressing, but it's also counterbalanced by his natural representation through a largely female group of protagonists, a healthy distrust of corporations, and a laissez-faire attitude towards sexuality. Even when the occasional joke falls flat, Ellis's breakneck pacing zooms past it. It feels like he's constantly trying to top himself and give Immonen the space to show off. Issue 10 sees each of the Nextwave members get sent into a mind-controlled nightmare. Well, everyone except Tabby because she has no mind to control, giving the artist the chance to work in 4 very different art styles. It's followed by issue 11, which includes a series of 6 double-page spreads filled to the brim with chaotic violence and even more strange creatures. Parody extends into every aspect of the book, including its FAQ, giving answers that quickly spiral into the dark and insane. Its title cards, which both taunt the reader and revel in the book's excesses. Its theme song. Yes, it has its own theme song. And letters column, which is run by the Beyond Corporation's sassy Lettermatic 7053. Close to the end of the series, the Nextwave team goes up against several other teams sponsored by Silent, but it's the group of Avengers parodies led by Forbushman that reveals the major inspiration for Ellis and Immonen's comic. Superhumanity is a wildflower in this strange America. It grows unchecked, and I considered for many years how to best garden it. And then I found these. Some subliterate had left them on a bench in the Silent-assisted death pool. See, as I did. Silent Leader Number None was inspired by H.A.T.E, just like Ellis was in the creation of his comic. A Marvel parody comic that ran for 13 issues from 1967 to 1969, with writers and artists including Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Bill Everett, and more. H.A.T.E let Marvel creators lampoon their own characters, with the strange Forbushman as the comic's mascot. Like H.A.T.E, Nextwave is free to mercilessly skewer the inherent ridiculousness of superhero comics because its creators love them. But where Nextwave surpasses other straight parodies is that it has ambitions of being a great, pure superhero comic as well. Shovel fights, giant monsters, explosions on explosions, more digs at Mark Millar, kick-ass heroes, and cool costumes made even cooler with matching trench coats, baby Modocs, and a suddenly sophisticated devil dinosaur who's been pulling the strings this whole time. When Nextwave ended its 12 issues, it was due to a mix of low sales and Ellis reaching the end of the initial story that he wanted to tell. There had been plans to pass off the book to another writer, but it never happened, with Ellis saying that he'd like to return to the title someday. More than 10 years later, and it's clear that it'll never happen. Nextwave is dead. Deader than Uncle Ben dead. But maybe that's for the best. The comic, I mean. Well, maybe Uncle Ben too. These 12 issues are a distillation of sheer superhero madness that stands as a brilliant, much-needed kick in the dick for the genre. My robot face is beautiful and will not be kicked by the likes of you fleshy ones. And I don't believe in your God. God is for fleshy ones. I am robot. And your God will throw up when he sees what I have done to you. Superhero comics have an inherent ridiculous quality to them. Men and women endowed with powers that combine all manner of sci-fi and fantasy inspirations, sporting chiseled physiques, perfect good looks, and skin-tight spandex clothes that cover up just enough bulges and ridges so the kids can read. Embarking on adventures that defy logic, and soap opera romances that scoff at the idea of healthy relationships. These stories have gained greater nuance, have reached heights like timeless myths, and can mean so much to their audiences. But they also have a silliness that's been baked into them ever since Superman lifted that green car over his head and smashed it on a rock. Nextwave is a reminder to not take comic books too seriously, but to also love them for all the different things they can be. Nextwave is love. Nextwave, when America can only be saved by killing a buttload of monsters. Nextwave, a comic single about 5 pirate superheroes twisting the nipples of the military-industrial complex. Nextwave, healing comic books by beating people up.
Organize your sock drawer, Elsa! He's gonna speak with an accent, the captain! His name is the captain! Nextwave!